Welcome back. Today, we're looking at excerpts from Clebetude text. It's a dramatic monologue, really digging into deep-sea mining for polymetallic nodules.
And it takes this sharp turn, suggesting these nodules might be something, well, alive, ancient, maybe conscious.
Exactly. It's powerful stuff because it weaves together, the climate crisis fear with this deeper, almost cosmic dread.
Yeah, it hits hard.
So our focus today is making sure the structure really carries both those heavy ideas effectively. We've got 3 main points to discuss, starting right at the beginning.
Okay.
So the opening does a good job setting up the facts, the deep-sea mining context. But it feels like it needs to get to the core irony faster to really grab the listener right away. Right now, you get this description of the sort of geopolitical gold rush for cobalt, nickel, copper, all for quote-unquote green tech, right? Which is factual, but...
But it delays the punch.
Yeah, exactly. The listener's wading through technical details about these rock formations before they hit that central paradox. We're destroying the deep sea to, quote, save the climate up here.
Right, and that paradox is the hook. The factual stuff, the mining details, they're solid, necessary even, but the pacing feels a bit too standard. For this kind of piece, you want that tension immediately.
Okay, so suggestion-wise?
I think condense the technical bits. Front-load the really potent statement, that cognitive dissonance, needing green power versus wiping out this last unknown place on Earth.
Use the irony first.
Yeah, use the irony as the reason to explain the minerals, not the other way around. Make the listener feel the stakes before they get the details.
That does shift it, makes it feel more like drama, less like a report from the outset. Okay, concrete examples. How would that sound?
Well, you could take lines that appear later and pull them right up. Like, we're talking about deep-sea mining, a quiet gold rush, and bam, right after that, hit them with, and we're doing this to save the climate on the surface while destroying life in the deep. Juxtapose it immediately.
Or that line comparing Mars to the ocean floor?
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
We know the surface of Mars better than our own ocean floor. Imagine starting almost there.
Right. We know Mars better, and that's where we're sending the bulldozers. Something like that. It immediately frames the whole thing as reckless, as existentially risky.
Sets the dread tone instantly. And then the facts about what we're mining gain this sinister weight.
Precisely. It earns the technical explanation.
Okay, good. That strengthens the opening a lot. Which then leads us to probably the trickiest part of this piece structurally.
The pivot.
Yeah, the pivot. From the known environmental risk to the speculative horror. So our second point is about clarifying the, let's say, intentional ambiguity there.
Making that bridge stronger.
Right. The script moves from observed anomalies, the sonar patterns, the acoustic logs from the Odyssey, straight into this really big leap. The nodules are eggs or data carriers, some ancient life. And that transition needs a clearer rhetorical bridge. Because right now it treats the evidence, like the Kaiko submersible patterns or the Wolok sounds.
The lost mining vessel, yeah.
It treats those as sort of factual stepping stones directly into pure speculation about non-carbon life. And that jump, it's big. It risks losing the listener, breaking that suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, that's a real danger. The power here comes when the speculation feels almost forced upon the narrator, like it's the only explanation that fits the weirdness, especially if the official story feels thin.
And right now, it perhaps feels a little too much like the narrator's own idea.
Maybe. It risks sounding like they're just abandoning the evidence for a flight of fancy, rather than being driven to that conclusion by the strangeness of it all.
So the suggestion is to anchor that leap more firmly. How?
Frame the speculation not as the narrator's invention, but as the result of official silence, or maybe even a cover-up. The script mentions the Mulak vessel getting lost, right? And the official line is just technical failure.
Standard explanation. Vague.
Exactly. So use that gap, that void left by the official non-explanation. That's where the terror grows. Acknowledge the anomalies, the patterns, the sounds, the lost ship are so profound, so weird that they force people involved, the engineers, the scientists, to whisper about other possibilities, terrifying ones.
Ah, so it's not, I think this, but this is what the silence forces us to consider. It grounds the speculation in a kind of paranoia born from missing information.
Precisely. It makes the narrator seem less like they're inventing fantasy and more like they're piecing together something dreadful that officials are hiding or ignoring.
Okay, so for example, after mentioning the mulak and the technical failure,
You could have the narrator say something like, "The official report says technical failure." Fine. But when the evidence is this strange patterns where there shouldn't be, sounds no one can explain, a billion-dollar machine just gone, well, that official silence, that's where the real dread starts to take root.
right, it acknowledges the official story, but it immediately pivots to its inadequacy.
And then, when the idea of eggs or data carriers comes up,
You frame it as what the insiders are whispering?
exactly. Reinforce that this isn't just the narrator's wild idea, it's what engineers and deep-sea scientists whisper among themselves when the official channels go quiet. Something like that. Ground the fantasy in that internal, hushed dialogue.
That definitely builds credibility for the horror element. It feels earned.
It strengthens the narrator's voice and keeps that suspense tight, leading into the conclusion.
Okay, which brings us to the conclusion itself. Our third point, making sure that ending carries the full weight of everything that's been built up.
Because it's got a chilling final line, but
But it feels like it focuses almost entirely on the existential dread, the awakening idea. And in doing so, it maybe sidelines the very real, very concrete environmental catastrophe that the script established so well earlier.
right, we spent time setting up the tragedy of destroying this unique, unknown abyssal ecosystem. That's a certainty, an irreversible loss. We can't just let that fade away at the end.
The script's real power comes from combining both fears, right? The known ecological disaster and the unknown cosmic horror. They should amplify each other.
Yeah, they compound.
But that final line, we may not be mining, we may be awakening, while powerful, it really throws all the weight onto the speculative horror. It almost makes a definite destruction of the ecosystem feel like just the setup.
Like Act 1 of a horror movie? Yeah?
And it's not just a choice between one or the other. The terror is that we're being reckless in both ways at the same time, destroying what we know is precious and potentially poking something ancient and unknowable.
So the suggestion is to reintegrate that initial irony, that ecological cost, right into the final moments. The strongest ending has to hold both threads. We're risking planetary damage and existential horror. The double risk is the real punchline.
Okay, so practically speaking, how do we weave that back in? Instead of letting the environmental theme drop off.
You combine them in the final sentences. Acknowledge that even if the awakening doesn't happen, the destruction itself is monumental. The horror exists on both levels.
So maybe a final reflection that hits both notes, like,
Something that encapsulates the full cost, the known and the unknown consequence.
maybe something like, we are the noisy intruders down there, destroying a library we can't even read, and maybe, just maybe, risking an awakening we absolutely cannot survive.
Ooh, I like that. Keep going.
In this quiet gold rush, digging for minerals in the dark, what happens if the darkness looks back? Either way, whether it's just ecosystem collapse or something else, the damage feels absolute.
Yes, that lands it. The damage is absolute. It brings back the environmental cost and links it directly to the potential awakening. It makes the final question, what happens if the darkness looks back, encompass both the life we know we're destroying and the potential entity we might be provoking.
It ties everything together, gives the whole piece that full significance.
Absolutely. It makes the ending resonate on all the levels the script built up.
Great. Okay, so this is already a very strong piece, really effective. These adjustments, though, could really elevate its impact. Let's just quickly recap the actionable takeaways.
Good idea.
First, that opening. Really front-load the core irony. Hook the listener immediately with the conflict, destroying the deep sea for green energy before getting into the technical meads.
Make the stakes clear up front. Second, sharpen that bridge between the factual anomalies and the big speculative leap.
Frame the horror ideas, the eggs, the awakening, as the necessary, whispered consequence of official silence and cover-up. Ground it.
Make the speculation feel inevitable, not invented. And third, the conclusion. Make sure it synthesizes both risks, the definite ecological destruction and the potential existential awakening. Don't let one overshadow the other. The true impact is in that double threat.
Exactly. Land both punches.
This is really complex, fascinating material to work with.
It really is. So, we definitely encourage you to explore these structural and tonal refinements. See how weaving these suggestions in changes the flow and the feel. And please, do submit it again. We'd love to see the next iteration.